Morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the New York City Bus and Transit Committee. Let's get started with our safety announcements.
Your safety is of foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen to the following instructions. In the event of an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and 911 should be called. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell D down the hallway past the elevators. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. Thank you and have a safe day.
Okay, we're now ready to move on to our public speakers.
Good morning. We have 11 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all of our public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I'd also like to remind our speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to everyone, we will limit you to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you when you have 30 seconds left to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Jason Anthony, followed by Robert Whittaker.
Good morning, Chairwoman Hilda. Good morning, President Richard Davey. And good morning, Transit Committee, Jason Anthony from Amazon Labor Union. This morning, I want to address an unfortunate incident that once again occurred in our subway system. A shooting inside Canal Street on the Broadway line. Richard Davey, I heard your comments during a press conference yesterday. Did you know that our transit employees are part of that incident? Did you know that transit employees didn't feel safe? Did you know that I commute from Atlantic Avenue Barclays Center to Amazon's JFK 8 warehouse 4 days a week at 4 in the morning, feeling unsafe? I would love to ride the subway from my home station, taking the N and the R train, seeing homeless people sleeping on that train, and riding a crowded S40 and S90, having a union that doesn't cooperate with Amazon workers. Will you love to see a crowded bus with almost none of the riders wearing masks? Because I didn't feel pleased seeing you talking like that and doing that press conference yesterday.
Please conclude your remarks.
So I'll see you guys in the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Robert Whittaker, followed by Charlton D'Souza.
Hi, good morning, President Davey, committee members. My name is Robert Whittaker. I'm a bus operator for New York City Transit. And of recent incidents of violence and safety on buses and trains, it just seems like always, forever, that buses are always left out. I mean, we as bus operators are the most visible part on every day, with one-to-one people coming on the buses every day, and it's very unsafe to see. We keep being told that there's a safety plan coming, but all we feel is like we're left out. And now the recent New York City Post report saying that there was 200 unreported workplace violence. Well, that's pretty low from what I would consider, since most things are covered up or tried to be minimized. You know what? Workplace violence and EEO, which policies really don't get implemented that well, because I've been threatened on the job, not even out in public, but even in our own depots. I've had people follow me, threaten me, and everything else like that. So how am I supposed to feel safe when I hear that there's a safety plan coming? It's unfortunate that we, the employees, are affected by decisions that are made here at the board and management without really understanding the situation. Saying safety is one thing, actually doing it is a whole different thing. Thank you, and I wait to hear what safety is coming for our operators out there, both in the depots and out on the road, because we certainly don't feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Charlton D'Souza, followed by Christopher Greif.
Good morning, Richie Davis, and to the MTA board. Yet again, unfortunately, we have another death in the system. I was at Canal Street. I was there for 5 hours yesterday, talking with community members and everyone there. And Richard, you've got a tough job ahead of you. This agency is in a mess. I wish you good luck. So much of politics in this agency and so much political influence from the inside. Look what happened to Andy Byford. He tried to do his job and he was sidelined. I hope that doesn't happen to you, but at the same time, the passengers deserve safety. We need cameras at all the subway cars, and there are some things you can change in the system within your power, and that is communication, especially overnight. People on trains are not getting communication about delays, about stalled trains, about things happening, and also connections need to be improved. Shuttle buses have to be improved, but the NYPD has to have a physical presence on the train cars. We don't see them in the train cars. People are being attacked. I was on an F train at 3 o'clock in the morning coming back on Sunday, and what do I see? A guy going back and forth, and he kept walking. He looked like he was on drugs or something. The system is not safe, and until you guys improve safety for the employees, for the passengers, and for everyone involved, people will not be coming back to the subway system. You guys have a responsibility to get this right. So I do want to meet you, Mr. Davey. I hope to ride the subway system with you, and I want to show you Queens. You're welcome to come out. I'll buy you a cup of coffee, get you some donuts. And by the way, I rolled the tea. I was actually in Boston on Wednesday, so I got a chance to see the system, and I did my research on you. Welcome.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Christopher Greif, followed by Andy Pollock.
And good morning, everyone. Christopher D. Greif here on Screenland. First of all, I hope one day we do meet the new president, because we do need to work together and make sure not just the homeless issue, but accessibility as well. I'm also here to remind that we definitely need to work on the mask, because we need to have more signages on the buses, the subways, including, I'm glad the conductors are announcing it definitely on the Brighton line and the Sea Beach line and the West End line. So in Brooklyn, they are. I can't answer for the other boroughs because it depends if their speakers are working. But at the same time, we definitely need to work on that as well. We need to make sure that people are wearing masks on the train and on the bus. I know I do. You can look at me on the video on every bus and every train, including my mother. As Andrew will say, the Greifs are always everywhere. Good grief. But the bottom line is we definitely need to work on that as well. As the summer is coming in also, we definitely need to make sure that once we're coming into Omni World, we need to make sure that if we're switching the reduced fare Omni, we need to make sure that locations are easy access, like Coney Island Stillwell Avenue, areas that are not being used. We need to try to use them to be easier for seniors and people with disabilities. So we hope we can work all together as one. And as the weather's getting nice out there, we need to make sure. And everyone who's listening to me now, please make sure you attend the Queen's Redesign, because what I'm seeing right now, it looks really pretty good there. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Andy Pollock, followed by Omar Vera.
Thank you, Kate. Morning, everyone. And especially, I would like to wish a very good morning to the new president of New York City Transit, Richard Davey. Richard, welcome back to New York. I know you spent some time up in Boston, and I noticed that there were a couple good things you did with the MBTA up there. And I will like to mention that there are challenges that are facing us here in New York City. First of all, Passengers United would like to give our condolences to the family of Daniel Enriquez, a very unfortunate incident that happened yesterday afternoon at Canal Street. And I especially would hope that President Davi is going to address the crime that we are facing with our transit system. And I want to mention that one of the things with the subway action plan, Mayor Adams claimed that there was going to be no more sleeping allowed on the subway. Well, guess what I encountered on the E train last week? That's right, somebody sleeping between Jackson Heights, Roosevelt, and Queens Plaza. So a lot's got to change. Also, there's staffing issues that need to be addressed. We see constant problems with that. The subways are running very slow on the weekends. Passengers United's been getting numerous complaints about that. And, you know, overall, we're hoping for a better transit system with Richard Davi. Let's give him a chance and let's see what he does. So, Richard and everyone, have a good Memorial Day, and I expect to speak to you all again in June. Take care.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Omar Vera, followed by David Kupferberg.
Good morning, MTA Board's Transit and Bus Committee. Welcome to the May edition of your meeting. First, let's welcome the new president on board to the MTA. It's New York City Transit. Welcome. Second, yes, we need to address crime, as what happened yesterday was a tragedy that seriously, unfortunately, has been it occurred, but we need to solve crime because people do not feel safe on the subway. We do not want to go back to like the bad old days of the 70s and 80s. So, third, let me just say today is the 6th anniversary of the committee's vote to restore the W train. Yes, I pushed for the restoration of the W train back in 2016. Due to the fact that the Q train was getting rerouted onto 2nd Avenue for the opening of the 2nd Avenue subway. So let's commemorate the anniversary of the W train returning to service. Yay! And especially I got to thank board member Andrew Albert for pushing it. Thanks, man. And finally, we need to also enhance better service. Like, for example, we need the B and W trains, speaking of the topic, to start running on weekends to provide more service, especially when there's a high level of ridership. With that said, I yield back to balance my time, and I'll see the rest of you later. Take care and have a good day.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be David Kupferberg, followed by Lisa Daglian.
Mr. Richard Davey, congratulations on being named president of New York City Transit. I have complete confidence that your tenure will be interesting. The Bronx Bus Network Redesigned Final Plan Addendum was approved unanimously by the MTA Board on December 15th and will be implemented on June 26th. But I continue to have concerns. Port Morris and Baychester are known transit deserts. Unfortunately, nothing in these neighborhoods will change. Bus routings in Port Morris can be easy to adjust. Baychester, however, has more complex issues. That's why I wish to give to Mr. Davey my written testimony, my testimony addendum, my critique on bus stop spacing, my critique on MTA New York City Transit Service Guidelines Manual, and the manual itself. Westchester County is undergoing their own bus network redesign. What if Westchester County decides to no longer serve Boston Road and instead feed their riders within their county to the subway at Dyer Avenue? But this should not be the starting point not to engage Westchester County in a tete-a-tete, but for negotiations and making the city limits less of a barrier between neighborhoods. The riding public usually doesn't care where their transit services come from. They simply wish to travel between point A and point B seamlessly. I must reiterate that if no riders would have to pay an additional fare, especially for the rerouted BX18, three-legged transfers would have to ultimately be approved by the MTA board. The documents presented to the public show no evidence that this would be the case. Should there be three-legged transfers connected to the BXB Bronx Bus Network redesign, they should be kept secret. In conclusion, the Bronx Bus Network redesign could have had more comprehensive changes in order to make the final plan a better plan for all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Lisa Daglian, followed by Murray Bowden.
Hi, good morning. I'm Lisa Daglian, Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. Rich, President Davey, welcome to your first official Transit Committee meeting. With about 20 days under your belt, you're having a hell of a first month. The good news has been the increasing ridership, hitting new post-pandemic records. Your commitment to safety, reliability, and cleanliness were leading the way to driving those numbers even higher. Until yesterday. What a horrific, tragic day. Riding the subway should not be a death sentence. Going to brunch should not get you killed. But a guy with a gun ended Daniel Enriquez's plans, making him the latest target of an unprovoked attack. Another subway crime statistic. Could he have been stopped at the turnstile? Did he pay his fare? We've now seen surveillance footage of the attacker. But what were riders on board to do? Surely they're all now traumatized, as are the transit workers. Someone who appears a little off, as we've all seen on our regular trips too often, and we hope to get to the next stop before something happens. But what are riders to do? Is there a better way for them to notify the police? Is there a better way for somebody to stop someone before a tragedy happens? It appears that transit crime is our new pandemic, but it is not unique to New York. Guns are not unique to our city. This is a national crisis, and we need a national solution. Let's convene a national transit safety summit and share best practices and find new solutions. Improving safety is improving ridership. The advocacy community and our own national network stand ready to help. Please, let's work together to get riders back on board and improve safety for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Murray Bowden, followed by Elizabeth Abram.
If you're interested in fares being paid and buses going faster, then you have to be truthful with people. There can't be two sets of rules, one for the aggressive and one for people. This morning at 2 meetings, they demonstrated the failure to understand that the world has changed. Bridges and tunnels, they refuse to put on road lines that would make the buses run faster. They're dishonest with the riding public. So until there is a decision that this is a world of global warming and the rules that were written for a society of 50 years ago don't work today. On June 11th, I'll be 89 years old. What happened here this morning at the first meeting is a demonstration of the steps that you need to take to go forward. The world has changed. Recognize that it has changed, and you cannot act the way you did in the past.
Thank you. Our final speaker today will be Elizabeth Abram.
Good morning, everyone. I get very excited when I come here because I'm very appreciation of Accessorite. So please forgive me if my anxiety, if my impediments would make me, stir a little bit. But once I want to say that I'm very appreciation of Accessorite. I mean, you're the best and good impressions of what you're doing, and I applaud. But I would like to make some suggestions in terms of what's been occurring. And one of the things I wanted to propose that, and I mentioned to you guys, is the issues of when you're presenting that so many, everybody plays a different role in Accessorite. But when you have the drivers that coming in, New York City has become a multicultural community. And for that reason, there's to be some adjustments or suggestion that could be done. And a good example, I think, is when the workers, they should have a little language. There's always a logo. Not a logo, pardon me. It's like different words you use in a job. Up, down, get around. But some drivers don't speak English. They speak Spanish. So I proposed to Accessorite before, well, why don't I have something that could put it in Spanish? Arriba, para abajo, alrededor. Because when the new workers coming in from a different country, they don't understand the adjustments. It could be annoyance because they can't speak English. They can't other languages. So I think of my good impressions of Accessorite should prepare a plan where the workers would have appreciation of you, that there be little languages for them. Next point. Accessorite, too, another problem is the logo. Accessorite wears the different colors, white and blue, and the green cabs, very clear. There's a problem with the vehicles that are black. Everybody black, 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 and some of these drivers refuse to use a logo, and they should. Something should be done about that. Accessorite, when we have the new workers, can I stop?
Please conclude your remarks.
I can stop? Okay, no
Thank you
problem.
so much.
It's okay, I appreciate it. Accessorite, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, this concludes the public comment session.
Thank you, everyone. And I, too, want to just say it was a tragic event that happened yesterday, but we know with the good work of the NYPD, hopefully we'll get some good news soon. And I think Jana is going to be joining us before Rich and I do our report. I guess he's not joining us. You want to answer? Yes? Okay.
Good morning, board members. Good morning, Chair. The latest tragedy that happened yesterday comes as the city is still hurting from the Sunset Park shooting last month and from the murder of Michelle Lissago in January. New Yorkers are tough, and they've demonstrated it again and again during the pandemic. They're trying to resume their normal lives, but they can't resume normal life if just getting around is frightening. For so many New Yorkers, the transit system is the only way to get around and to live their normal lives. You can't do that if you're scared to get up and go to brunch, that most New York of activities, on a Sunday morning, for fear of being attacked. The train involved in this shooting, the Q, is one I've ridden for 25 years. It's the train that my kids use regularly and frequently come home. They're all in college now, but they come home at midnight, 1 a.m., coming back from Manhattan. It's always felt safe. And that train is incredibly iconic. Brooklynites know that when you come out of the DeKalb Tunnel and you get onto the Manhattan Bridge, you see the city's skyline. It's the way New Yorkers get a little dose of what's inspirational about the city, just that view. Now, for a while, that's never going to be the same, knowing that a great New Yorker, Daniel Enriquez, lost his life yesterday in a random and cold-blooded act of violence. Our hearts go out to his family, his sister, everybody in his family, his nieces and nephews. And our hearts go out to all New Yorkers who are feeling terrified at this moment. New York City's different. Because of our density, we can't spare the public space. The subway is part of that. We have to use these shared spaces. It needs to be safe, it needs to feel safe, it needs to be welcoming. And that sense of community in the public space is a good part of being in New York, and we're not going to let anyone defile it or take it away from us. Now, we know that the NYPD, as good an investigative force as exists on earth, is hard at work, and they're going to get this guy and put him behind bars. With strong support from Governor Hochul and leadership from Mayor Adams and Police Commissioner Sewell, we have confidence. We need the city to be made comfortable again. Last week, we celebrated record ridership on the MTA system. And in fact, before yesterday, we were starting to see stats indicating that even subway crime was headed in the right direction. This was all before yesterday's senseless shooting, which is an incredible setback for everybody's effort to put New York back on normal footing. I want to thank the MTA workers who again responded professionally and quickly, and also to the NYPD who were on the spot a minute after that train pulled into Canal Street. Incredible, incredible work. Chief Wilcox, thank you for your leadership, and thank you to the department and everybody who's working right now. What we can contribute is this, to underscore, do what the police department says. There's somebody who knows this person from his clothing, from his pattern. There's a wanted poster out that the PD's put out, and they always say, call 1-800-577-TIPS. 1-800-577-TIPS if you know anything about this person who appears to have committed this terrible crime. Help the police and help New York get back to normal. Chief Wilcox?
Thank you, sir. So as already stated yesterday morning, we saw a senseless and cruel shooting homicide on the Q train coming into Canal Street from Brooklyn. Initial appearances that this terrible crime was committed without provocation. I quickly responded to that scene, as did our NYPD Chief of Department, Ken Corey, and President of New York City Transit, Richard Davey. This type of violence is never acceptable in our city. A significant and robust investigation is underway to identify the shooter. I want to point out MTA video obtained from the Canal Street station is providing our detectives with important information and images, as just shown, of a possible suspect. So, just as I said after the terror-related subway shooting at the 36th Street station on April 12th, this type of violence and intentional criminal acts will not deter us from moving forward with determination and focus to keep our subways safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Jano. All right, let's get on to the business of our board meeting. Rich, you want to join us? Can I first have a motion to approve the March 22 meetings? Andrew, we have an issue?
Yeah, we do. Page 3, second to the bottom paragraph, and looks forward, it should say to continuing this positive trend, not the, instead of to. And then below that, looks forward, it should say, instead of froward. So with those two corrections, they're good.
You move? Can I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Against? Abstentions? Motion passed. Okay. Okay, Rich, turn it over to our new president, Rich. Welcome. Are there any changes to the work plan?
There are none, I think. Let me see. Actually, there is.
There is.
The biannual customer satisfaction report, which was originally scheduled for presentation this month, will now be presented in September. Otherwise, there are no other changes.
Great, thank you. You
You're
want to
welcome.
start us off with the president's report?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first, I do want to, as Chairman Lieber did, acknowledge and ensure that the transit family expresses our condolences to the victim and his family, Daniel Enriquez. As Jano said, someone who wanted to just go to brunch in New York, as New Yorkers typically do on Sunday, lost his life. I also, too, want to recognize the great work of our MTA employees and the police who responded, valiantly yesterday, and as the chief said, are out on a manhunt to find them. In terms of my report, first, I'm humbled and honored to be taking this helm in New York City Transit. Since the beginning of the month, I've had a chance to visit a number of bus, paratransit, subway facilities and stations, and I've been immensely impressed with the great work the transit team is doing, and sincerely appreciative of all that they're doing. In fact, I wanted to hold up what are two folders, one for subway operators and one for bus operators. What's in these folders? Commendations, thank yous, and appreciation from our customers over the last 6 weeks. It is an extraordinary testament, thank you, to all the hard work that the 50,000 men and women of this organization are doing. I've had a chance to meet maybe a couple hundred of you. I look forward to meeting all of you in the coming months and years to thank you personally for what you're doing for this system. And as mentioned, I've been able to visit the Bus Command Center, the Rail Command Center, the Paratransit Command Center. I think I've met all the command centers we have. Corona, St. George Terminal, Clifton Shop, Casey Stengel, Zarega, LaGuardia, Quill, the 59th Street Depot, our paratransit offices in Queens and 180 in Livingston. And through all that, see exactly what's happening, and as I said, very much impressed. I also was pleased to mark Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month by participating in a cross-cultural exchange on May 17th, organized by our Transport Asian Employee Resource Group. And then on the 19th, last Thursday, had the pleasure of joining the Pride Express employee group for the MTA's LGBTQ plus community and allies. And I will continue to engage with our employee groups and have asked my colleagues in the office and around the system to do that as well. Maybe turn to goals. My goals for transit, having been on the job now 3 weeks and 1 day, is really centered around 5 key objectives that dovetail to the chairman's 7 priorities that he discussed, I believe, back in March. So first is safety. We've obviously talked about that. We will continue to talk about that over these coming weeks and months. But maintaining safety on our subways, buses, and our paratransit services to be a welcoming and safe space for our customers and our employees in partnership with the city and the state is a top priority for this organization. We'll continue to work with Chief Wilcox. We've already had a chance to work with him already. And our partners at the city to address the issues that are frankly spilling down from our streets and into our system and to our buses: homelessness, panhandling, addiction, mental illness, and crime. We know this is the top issue on our customers' minds, on our employees' minds, and we cannot rest until these issues are addressed in a meaningful way. We've also been deeply concerned about the safety of our employees, as a couple of members of the public mentioned earlier in their, and one employee assault and is assault against all of us in our transit family. We will continue to look to ways for keep our employees safe and aggressively go after those and bring justice to those perpetrators who would do harm, as well as encourage our elected leaders in Albany to strengthen laws in the books that prevent transit worker assaults. Our second priority is customer experience. Sarah Meyer and I have got to know each other well the last 3 weeks. I expect that partnership will continue. Customer satisfaction will become the North Star of our metrics going forward. I know in the board books and the committee books, we often look at on-time performance and mean distance between failure and all these exciting transit metrics. But if the customers aren't satisfied, then nor should we be. So watching what our customers are saying is going to be critically important. And so we are collaborating with Sarah and her team to launch monthly pulse surveys to hear feedback from our customers on our performance, where we are doing well and where we can improve. Some folks have already heard me say this. I think Ms. Abram said this earlier about her Access ride. I believe we are the best in the business, but even the best can be better. We're going to be standing up weekly operations deep dives for all modes to understand very granularly what the reasons are for delays, then ruthlessly attack them. Beyond those transit-wide initiatives, we're also moving in on several areas. For subway, we're going from line performance to station-by-station performance. I think Mr. D'Souza talked about looking at weekend service and communicating delays. Those are very much top in my mind, and believe these weekly sessions will be able to see where we can improve. Monday morning sessions to talk about weekend service. Craig, I'm first of all thankful Craig has signed on to be my Chief Operating Officer. He will be quarterbacking a number of initiatives for us, but this will be a particular one I know he's passionate about. And then reigniting our group station management teams to create a cleaner, safer, and welcoming environment. We have big plans to improve the front door of our work in our subway network. On bus, expanding the very successful ABLE camera enforcement program. I was on a bus this weekend, which I think I sent Frank some notes. It continues to be a challenge for our bus operators to be operating around parked cars, parked ice cream trucks, parked buses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And although the operator did a yeoman's job in that particular instance. Working with our partners at New York City DOT to achieve the mayor's vision of 150 new bus lines in his first term. We are committed to work with the mayor on a very ambitious program. We appreciate his leadership in that regard. And then rolling out a successful Bronx redesign in June. I was in the Bronx on Friday night to see some of the exciting to come new bus lines and new bus service we'll have for our customers. Judy's team is doing a great job. You'll hear from Judy momentarily about that. And then about our Queens redesign as well. We are in full-fledged public feedback and looking forward to public opinion about that. I am convinced that we will be better. We are always better. Transit systems are always better when we receive candid feedback from our customers. And on paratransit, 80% of our pre-pandemic ridership is back. And that's something we're watching very closely, our metrics very closely, because with ridership coming back so quickly, we need to make sure that the key metrics for our paratransit customers, wait time and drop trips, do not increase as a result of the increased ridership. You'll hear from Chris about that. 3 is employee experience. I want to activate internal action teams to be working directly with the President's office so we can improve employee facilities and the work environment, employee facilities, leadership training. We will be restarting our bus and rail rodeos, which have been great opportunities for our employees to show off their skills against one another and then send them to national competitions to show the U.S. that we're the best. And we're establishing an employee outreach and engagement strategy. So again, I will be out listening to employees and seeing where we can help them. The 4th is our long-term fiscal stability. It's no secret that there are challenges that this agency and the legacy urban agencies around the United States have with the ridership challenges through COVID and potentially the new normal, whatever that may be, from work from home. But so first, we need to be collecting every fare. We'll obviously be working with the Blue Ribbon Fare Task Force to see where we can improve internally. We also need to make sure that our fare vending machines are working and maintained, and then studying stations and fare evasion tactics and putting mitigation strategies in place. Bobby Deal and I have he's already had a few good ideas that we've put into place as well. And then where can we deploy new technologies and methodologies to make sure that all of our folks are working more safely and efficiently? I've seen too many dirty mops and brooms that our employees have. We can put better equipment in their hands to make sure that they're cleaning our vehicles and our stations. Lastly, innovation. Don't tell my friends in Boston, but when I ran the system in Boston, we often looked to New York as the innovator in the industry, and that is true. Perhaps because of COVID, we may have lost our step a little bit, but I'm committed to making sure that we are the most innovative transit agency in the United States, and once again, folks are looking to us for the best ideas. So one such initiative is to leverage our friends at the Transit Tech Lab. Many of you know we've had a great partnership with that team over the last several years. We'll be looking at some final presentations with some pilot initiatives that they'll be proposing in June, and I look forward to bringing some of those ideas to this committee and the full board. Lastly, I know, Chair, this will probably be my longest report, so I appreciate everyone's patience, indulgence, exactly. But I also wanted to offer a few words of personal introduction to both the board members, to the stakeholders here in the room, and to all those who watch these meetings. The senior team here has heard me at least summarize my management philosophy with 3 quotes. One is, tell me what I need to know, not what you think I want to hear. I've been in a couple of these jobs before, and I would tell you that I think from time to time, often we're not hearing exactly what's going on. But my charge to the team up and down the organization is to tell me what we collectively need to know, not what people think we want to hear, so we can solve it together. Two is managed with evidence, not by anecdote. We are going to be very data-driven in how we attack the problems at transit. So whether it's crime statistics, whether it's on-time performance on the Lex line, or speeding up bus on the SBS, a number of our SBS lines, we'll be looking at evidence to do that. And finally, ignorance is no longer bliss. I'll explain that. Question, be curious, push. What we've always done may be working, but there may be a better way to do it. And so continuing to ask the right questions and how to improve is going to be, again, one of our lodestars. Finally, someone asked me if I had a deep, brainy, strategic plan to improve service. There's probably someone in the press, actually. Well, the plan is to focus on the basics: service delivery, safety, and cleanliness, to ensure that our customers are coming back and into an environment that is safe and welcoming. So right now, simply put, our strategic plan is to get stuff done. You know, the work is serious and sobering, given what we heard this morning about the death of one of our customers. But I have to say, after 4 weeks in the job, I'm even more excited to get to work, and I am more proud to be part of this New York City Transit team. I look forward to hearing more from our customers and our employees and our stakeholders as we work to make transit the obvious mode of choice for New Yorkers. That's the end of my report.
Thank you very much, Rich. Any questions, Randy?
Yeah, good morning. Welcome to your first official meeting.
Thank you.
When I worked at New York City Transit many, many years ago, one of the very popular programs was the Employee Suggestion Program. So but the Transit Authority greatly benefited from the suggestions of its employees, and so I heartily support making that recommendation to you. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions for Rich? If not, we'll move on to Demetrius. Demetrius, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Ada. And good morning, all. I'm glad to report that Subway's performance saw several gains in April 22, specifically in asset reliability. First off, weekday on-time performance rose yet again to 82.4%, which is 0.4 points higher than last month and several points higher than our pre-COVID baseline. We attribute this improvement to fewer asset-related delays each day, including a 32% reduction in signal delays month over month. Weekday major incidents, which delay more than 50 trains, are also down from 51 last month to 35 this month. Mean distance between failure was 145,093 miles, which is 10,000-mile improvement from 2 months ago. We remain focused on reducing delays and increasing the reliability of our equipment so that we can deliver world-class service for our riders. While our efforts in asset reliability and incident management show performance improvements, we are still seeing the effects of the crew shortages on our system. In April, crew availability delayed 245 trains per day, or 3.2% of scheduled service. This is a significant improvement from December of 21, when the impact of crew availability delayed 632 trains per day. Unfortunately, the headwinds of attrition, civil service requirements, and competition with city agencies have been stronger than initially projected. We now expect to reach pre-pandemic vacancy levels for conductors in the fourth quarter. For train operators, we increased the size of next month's class and added an additional class that are expected to get us to pre-pandemic vacancy levels in early 2023. And we continue to work on strategies to achieve this goal sooner. Even with the staffing challenges, we delivered 92.9% of weekday service in April, which is higher than most months in 2021. We are going back to the original playbook of strategies to increase hiring, accelerate training, and optimize the use of crews we have available to operate as much service as possible. We also continue to monitor and balance service across lines, as we're extremely focused on minimizing the customer impacts of this shortage while we bring new crews on board. Related to asset reliability, I'd like to speak to Subway's plan for summer weather. We got a little bit of that this past weekend. Subways has already begun pre-season maintenance on our climate control systems to provide a safe and comfortable environment for our customers and employees. First, we began our annual survey and maintenance schedule of station equipment last month, and we will increase monitoring and ramp up the frequency of filter changes in cars as the temperature increases. We have an aggressive plan to weekly survey the temperatures in subway cars across all tours at terminals and testing car air conditioning systems daily in the shop. We have several shops set up to repair and replace AC compressors, inverters, and other HVAC components. In addition, we will implement our extreme heat plan as needed to emphasize employee safety while working in high temperatures. Ultimately, we are prepared to monitor and maintain climate conditions in our system so that we provide riders comfortable and safe journeys this summer. Speaking of summer, I am heartened by the news that Subways continues to break pandemic-era ridership records, including a 5-day total of over 16.6 million riders in the second week of May, and a new 1-day record of over 3.6 million riders last week. I was also excited by our ongoing partnership with the New York Transit Museum to operate vintage trains in service to Yankees opening day game. Events like these prove that New Yorkers are ready to return to using transit to go to work and appointments, visit friends and families, and enjoy the many cultural offerings the city has to offer this spring and summer. We are ready to serve them. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Demetrius. Any questions? Andrew.
Yes, thanks, Demetrius. I have a question. Under weekday major incidents, they're up 34.6. Weekend major incidents are up 43.9. What would you say, what kind of occurrence constitutes the majority of these major incidents?
So there were 16 of the 35 incidents for this month. There were 16 due to people on the roadbed, police, or medical incidents. And that number was 18 last month. So that gives you a sense that the majority of these incidents are tied to factors that are beyond our control.
That brings up the obvious question, where are we on the track intrusion task force that has been set up to stop people from going down there voluntarily or deciding to live down there or falling down there or whatever?
Yeah, appreciate the question. We've been supporting Jamie Torres-Springer and his team putting that together. I believe that they're going to be coming to the board with a report, if not Wednesday, certainly soon. But it is top of mind for us. I know Demetrius and others have been supporting that, and I gave them a few ideas as well in the last couple of weeks. But it is a huge issue, and I think what's even more, frankly, disturbing, and it goes to some of the, I think, challenges we described earlier, which is, customers and others who have emotional issues or mental health issues, many of these instances are choices to be on the roadbed, not, impaired and falling to the roadbed. So it's of the things that have surprised me in the last 3.5 weeks, the frequency of which that occurs is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to be aware of who's in the roadbed, because it could be somebody that means the system harm for all we know, So when I became a board member a long time ago, we were talking about track intrusion software, something that an employee could put key into something at the end of the platform to let it know it was an employee going into the tunnels, but nobody else would have that, and of course it would set off an alarm, and I hope we're getting closer to having something like that. Thank you.
Any other questions for Demetrius? If not, we'll move on to Frank. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, Hader. Thank you. So good morning, everybody. Bus performance in April remained steady, and for the third consecutive month showed improvements in key customer-focused metrics after the Omicron surge. While service delivered and weight assessment both remained flat against last month, customer journey time showed a 1.6% improvement against pre-pandemic and a 1% improvement against last month. An additional bus stop time decreased for the fourth straight month. I am pleased to report that on May 5th, we reached the single highest day ridership level since Omicron at 1.52 million. And also, the week of May 9th was the highest bus ridership week since November. As a percentage of pre-COVID weekly ridership, we were just at 64%, just a hair below. I'm encouraged to see more riders returning to our system, and the team continues to be focused on bus priority and service improvements and to deliver a world-class bus system to New Yorkers. As Demetrius mentioned, summer is soon upon us, and we have been working hard preparing our HVAC systems in buses and facilities. Among other things, the team has been verifying that all AC filter changes are up to date, monitoring AC pressures and temperatures, and ensuring that all scheduled maintenance is up to date. I would like to bring it to your attention an upcoming major milestone: the award of a critical consultant services contract in support of our zero-emissions fleet transformation. The contract will evaluate the MTA's existing service plan and facilities to develop strategies for a successful zero-emissions transition. In addition, the study will assess existing conditions and requirements and help develop a comprehensive plan to support the rollout of zero emissions by 2040. As President Davey mentioned, I'm happy to report that we have completed 10 of 14 public workshops for the Queens Network redesign, and we are receiving valuable feedback that will inform and shape the proposed final plan. And we are in high gear plan for the implementation of the Bronx local bus redesign on June 26. Following my report, Judy McLean will be presenting some highlights of the plan and our implementation process. Lastly, this month in the Finance Committee, Procurement will be seeking board approval to extend a service agreement with Cambridge Systematics, which helps generate our real-time locations for our buses and format the data into meaningful context for multiple applications, including bus time, My MTA, Open Trip Planner, automatic passenger counting, and digital information signs. That ends the buses report.
Thank you, Frank. Any questions for Frank? Okay, if not, I guess we move on to Judy. Welcome, Judy. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. The Bus Network Redesign Program is our key effort to modernize the bus network to reflect today's city. The Bronx plan is the result of extensive community engagement with our riders, elected officials, and transit advocates. Our outreach has included a public hearing, 9 open houses, and 28 community board meetings. It's incredibly important for this project to be successful and for the launch to be successful. We want every bus rider in the Bronx to know their ride is changing. And if they don't know yet, we want to make it easy for them to find out. To ensure that happens, we have a comprehensive plan that involves teams across the MTA and outside the MTA. We're all working together to make sure that this is a success. The Bronx Local Bus Network Redesign is a transformative project that will make bus service in the borough faster, more frequent, more reliable, and better connected to the subway. It includes 13 route revisions, 2 new bus routes, the M125 and BX25, and frequency increases on 11 routes. Stop spacing adjustments to speed up service. Stop spacing adjustments will speed up service and make it more reliable. We've already started to train more than 200 dispatchers and 700 bus operators on their new and revised routes. Customer service is a key component to their training. Like we did with our select bus service and the Staten Island Express bus redesign, we'll be utilizing customer ambassadors. They'll be posted at more than 50 key locations along the changed routes to tell customers in person about the network changes. Ambassadors will be handing out new bus maps and route-specific information. They'll be starting 2 weeks prior to the launch and continuing until 2 weeks after the launch. 12 different brochures will be available. They'll be available in both English and Spanish. Over 1,400 ambassadorships will be filled by New York City Transit staff and other volunteers throughout the MTA agency. New York City DOT has already started changing bus stop signs for the redesign. There are over 700 signs that need to be changed to reflect route and bus stop changes. So far, about 350 bus panels have been changed. MTA is posting signs at stops ahead of DOT's work to tell customers that these actual changes won't happen until June 26, the day of the launch. We've also updated our website to include a new future trip planner tool. This tool allows customers to quickly look up how to make their trip with the new network. Our website also has route profiles for every route in the Bronx. These profiles show the map of the route, bus frequencies, the span of service, and bus stop locations. We will have signage everywhere. Paper signage at our bus stops, bus maps in our buses, and digital screens across our system, in our buses, on our buses, and in our subway stations. We're also promoting the project on social media, letting customers know where they can get more information and how their service is improving. All these efforts should help us make this a successful launch. If you'd like to join us in the field and help us pass out some brochures, I'd be happy to arrange it. If you have any questions.
I believe, Judy, we've already signed up the committee members for various shifts. We'll just hand those out at the end of the meeting.
As a girl who rode the BX12 back and forth to Fordham University, I'll help.
Great, fantastic.
Randy, questions?
Interesting. I'm born in the Bronx. I look forward to see if I can help you. Are you going to have paper maps, or does it have to be on a smartphone to see the changes?
No, we're going to have paper maps, and
Thank
they'll
you.
be available. Customer ambassadors will have those maps in addition to the route-specific information.
Terrific. Thank you.
Lorraine?
Cheers. A 12 bus rider also. In terms of the language access, I think that I'm recommending that you also consider Russian. And there's a large growing population that has limited English-speaking abilities, and they are mostly Southeast Asian. So we need to really be sensitive to that also in the Bronx, in particular areas of the Bronx, the entire East Corridor. So I think that the language access, we should start thinking about communicating in various languages. The other thing that I was going is, are we going to change the express bus stops the way we have them, or are all of the routes being reimagined?
So this is just for the local bus. We're going to come back and look at express buses. We don't really have the time frame right now, but we are going to come back and look at the express buses.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Okay, we move on to Chris, who will provide us with the power transit report. Morning, Chris.
Morning, thank you. With hot weather just around the corner, we have begun our summer preparation activities to ensure comfortable rides for our customers and drivers. This kicked off with an all-carrier campaign at the end of March, reminding our primary carriers to check and maintain all air conditioning and engine cooling systems, and that no vehicles may be operated in revenue service without a functioning AC. Our superintendents will focus on AC when performing routine checks on carrier vehicles at pullout and on the systems when checking maintenance. For our brokers, we are sending reminders regarding AC systems as well. These reminders will go out regularly from our command center to both primary carriers and brokers as the season continues. Should we receive heat-related complaints from our customers, we will be tracking those and following up with our transportation providers to remedy. In addition to heat concerns, we'll be reviewing our flooding and hurricane plan and preparedness in June. On to performance. In March, average daily paratransit ridership increased by 10% month over month, with midweek weekday trips exceeding 80% of pre-COVID levels at over 25,000 trips per day. Despite this surge in ridership, the 30-minute pickup window for primary carrier service on-time performance increased slightly from last month to 95%, above the goal at 94%. No shows per 1,000 scheduled trips remained at 1.2, better than the goal of 3. For broker service, the March 30-minute pickup window dropped 1 percentage point to 92%, maintaining the 90% performance level for the third consecutive month, but still below our goal of 94%. Broker no-shows for March were at 3.7, down from 4.7 from the prior month, but again, still above our goal of 3. Looking at Sunday service, on-time performance was better than the monthly average at 98% on time for primary and 92% for broker, with a no-show rate of 0.68 and 3, respectively. As a direct result of the better on-street performance, our call center performance achieved 94% of calls answered in March, which is at goal. For paratransit, the most important factor that determines service quality is the relationship between transportation supply and demand. Looking back at March 2020, over 2 years ago, when supply was at pre-COVID levels, but demand, of course, was at its lowest, service quality peaked with on-time performance at 98%, and no-shows were under 1 per 1,000. Last year, in 2021, supply was still relatively abundant, thanks to less congestion, allowing more trips per driver per day, and less general demand on the for-hire vehicle taxi network, allowing more of those vehicles to be allocated to Access-a-Ride. And demand was still suppressed during this time, leading to on-time performance above 95% and no-shows close to or below 1. Now, fast forward to today, as we move into the summer, we'll be keeping a close eye on this relationship between supply and demand. Preliminary April results show ridership growth continuing at 4% and performance holding steady. However, to accommodate this growth, we have increased shared trips, and we had reintroduced bus transfers for eligible customers. In anticipation of further growth, we will maintain our broker incentives and prioritize increasing supply on both the carriers and the brokers to keep performance levels at this goal with anticipated ridership increases. That concludes the paratransit report.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions for Chris? Okay. If not, we're going to move on to Q. Q, you want to update us on accessibility, please?
Absolutely. Good morning. Today, I am excited to share an update on a project that we launched in April to install ADA tactile warning strips on all platforms across subway systems that do not yet have this feature. Through collaborations with Infrastructure Capital Construction ICC team in the Department of Subways and MTA Construction and Development C&D, we have developed a plan to install tactile warning strips at nearly 100 subway stations over the next several years. 4 platform edges have already been completed by the subways team. The northbound platform at the 182nd, 183rd Street station in the BD line in the Bronx, the Manhattan-bound platforms at Grand Avenue, Newton on the MR lines in Queens, and southbound platforms at Spring Street Station on the C and the E line, as well as the southbound platforms on the 50th Street Station C and E lines. We want to thank our colleagues in the Department of Subways who are working to make this important improvement and get this feature installed in an expedited fashion, working to make this feature in an expedited fashion at the platforms that we seek. Tactile edges or detectable warning surfaces create a more accessible environment for low vision or blind riders, helping them identify changes in elevation and or drops. We're also taking exciting steps towards increasing accessibility on our buses for customers with hearing loss. We will soon begin an in-system testing of a new bus that comes to us from the manufacturer with a hearing induction loop installed. This technology allows customers who have hearing aids or cochlear implants with the T-coil settings to have audio announcements transmitted directly to their device. One of 2 buses ordered with this technology installed was delivered earlier this month, and we will be testing it out with our customers soon. Finally, a reminder that we are gearing up to launch Omni for reduced fare and paratransit customers in the coming weeks. More information on Omni and reduced fare customers is available on the MTA website, and we look forward to giving a more detailed update on this launch and the next steps of Omni programs in June.
Q, how many stations needed the new tactile?
Just shy under 100.
Okay, good. And when do we think we'll be done?
Well, at
I
this
should ask the
rate,
subway guys that, right? I'm sorry.
Subways has been incredible, helping us do stations over the weekends, but C&D will come in to enhance that.
Got it.
So we'll be getting there rather quickly.
Great, thank you. And yes, Randy.
Might not be in your wheelhouse, as it's said, but friends of mine who are old, like me, want to know if, when the new Omni cars come out, will they be able to transfer any remaining funds from their Metro card, their senior Metro card, to the Omni card?
We are in active conversations with our budget teams on that. We will have more for you hopefully next month.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Q. And I now move over to Sarah to update us on strategy and customer experience. Good morning, Sarah.
Thanks, Hada.
You're welcome.
So we are continuing to roll out the new contact center software modernization project and are thrilled to be seeing some early benefits already. In April, incoming calls increased by 11% and calls answered increased to 93.1% compared to 2021. Thanks to the new software, customers' wait time improved to less than 2 minutes from a previous high of 8 minutes. This can be partially attributed to the new workforce management tools we have, as well as new reporting and dashboards. A huge thanks to the board for funding this project, as well as our partners in IT for funding it as well. We'll have more exciting updates in the next couple months as we start to launch more aspects of that system. As President Davey mentioned, customer satisfaction is our agency's North Star, and recruitment for our spring 2022 all-agency customer survey is now open. Customer input is an important driver for helping us determine where to focus our limited resources for improvements and new initiatives, making this data very, very important. So we're asking every rider to please sign up at mta.info/mta-customers-count. The survey will be open from Monday, June 13th through Thursday, June 30th, and it will be available in 8 different languages in addition to English. I also wanted to quickly reiterate that we acknowledge the complaints and the slow and difficult travel that many of our customers are experiencing on the weekends. We've put together a new blog, a quick and easy guide that you can you can navigate and read. It's posted on Fridays on our social media channels, and it's super short and quick. It'll help our customers find alternatives and avoid those routes that have slowdowns. I also wanted to give a brief shout out to our social media team who keeps finding innovative ways to get word out. This time using Instagram and TikTok to raise awareness about the IBX, the Interborough Express. Our recent video reel was posted on Instagram Reels and got around 340,000 views combined throughout these channels. So thank you to my team who keeps us on our toes and keeps teaching us new ways to reach our customers. Any questions?
Any questions to Sarah? Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
For keeping us all on our toes. Okay, we're now going to move on to safety and security. Bobby?
Sure thing. Good morning, everybody. When comparing the most recent 12-month period to the previous one, subway customer accident rates decreased. Bus collisions and collision injuries increased while customer accidents decreased slightly when comparing the most recent 12-month period to the previous one. However, bus collision injuries decreased when compared to the most recent pre-pandemic period. To address some of these increases, Department of Buses continues to send out weekly talking points to their entire management team, and all statistics are incorporated into their training classes and shared with personnel in road operations as well as the depots. Employee lost time accidents were relatively flat when comparing the most recent 12-month period to the previous one. We have seen an increase in subway fires when comparing the last 12-month period to the previous one. Department of Subways is taking on several initiatives to reduce these fires, such as replacing fiberglass insulators, increasing the number of track cleaners, coordination of vac train and station cleaning. It should be noted that for April, vandalism did account for 70% of station fires, which were of low severity. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Wilcox, and afterwards, if there's any questions. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Again, I just want to welcome President Davey. I look forward to working with you in the coming months and hopefully years to get things right and get things.
Decades, Chief,
yes,
decades.
I don't know if I have that much left in me, but I look forward to working with you closely. Thank you, sir. So about a month ago, April 25th, I responded to another act of shooting violence at the Parsons Archer train station in Queens, where a 24-year-old male was shot and killed. That incident highlighted a trend we have seen all year, and I had mentioned in a prior meeting with felony assaults, where a verbal dispute quickly escalates into a physical fight and that leads to violence. We have a suspect identified in that incident, and efforts are being made to apprehend him. As a follow-up to this incident, I attended a community meeting last Wednesday out in Jamaica, Queens, as the police commissioner announced a neighborhood revitalization initiative in the immediate geography of Sutphin Boulevard and Archer Avenue, both in the local streets and subways and train stations. Many community leaders, including the Queensborough president and members of the Jamaica BID, were also in attendance at this meeting. The train stations in this area are not just busy train stations, they are part of an essential and important transportation hub. As part of this effort, Transit District 20 and other Transit Bureau assets will be working in close coordination with the community, the MTA Police, Port Authority Police, to give additional attention to the stations of Parsons Archer and Sutphin Archer during the coming months. As the ridership continues to grow this year, we continue to experience increases in major crime categories when compared to what we experienced last year at this time. As we fight these crime increases, we have and will continue to field new efforts to address this situation as we move forward. In March of this year, we initiated our Transit Bureau Subway Safety Task Force under the leadership of Commanding Officer Captain Tin Mai. They are a proactive and mobile task force that seeks out locations in our subways that are affected by both serious quality of life and homeless conditions, such as the West 4th Street train station. This Subway Safety Task Force has made nearly 2,800 homeless contacts and taken over 900 homeless persons to shelter in a few months. In April, we deployed our subway training unit of nearly 70 newly assigned police officers who are actively patrolling both the stations and trains during the afternoon rush and evening hours. And now, in May, we have created a new train patrol force, or TPF, that will perform dedicated, targeted, and visible train patrols on the late evening and overnight hours. The TPF is not a new concept. It was a type of transit patrol done in years past, notably by our mayor when he was a transit cop, as well as Inspectors Pinella, our Transit Bureau XO, and Inspector Steve Hill, the commanding officer of Transit Bureau Manhattan. And when we see that 54% of our total subway crime is on the trains, and 40% of that are during the specific TPF overnight hours, it was an idea that we felt we needed to return to. Focused enforcement is an integral part of our effort to fight crime in the subway system. This year we are up in multiple arrest categories, up 67% in overall arrests so far, increases of 44% in felony arrests, and up 72% in misdemeanor arrests. We are up in robbery arrests, up in assault felony arrests, up in misdemeanor assault arrests, and up over 100% in grand larceny arrests. We are also working hard to remove weapons off the subway system. We are up in gun arrests, and we have made nearly 300 arrests for possession of cutting instruments this year. We have made a number of important loaded firearm arrests in recent weeks, some starting from a quality of life engagement. May 9th, a theft of service stop at Sterling Street on the 2 line in Brooklyn led to the recovery of a loaded firearm. May 14th, Grand Street, Chinatown, a call regarding a suspicious persons at the station, which came from Stations, by the way, led us to a male who had just come up from Florida on the bus and who was in possession of a loaded assault rifle and 9mm handgun. May 18th, on the F line in Queens at 179th in Jamaica, an outstretched male on the train was found to have a loaded firearm in his waistband. And yesterday in Harlem, on the downtown 2 line, a male was arrested for possession of a loaded 9mm gun after a struggle occurred on the train and a shot was fired. That suspect in this incident did also menace an MTA conductor with that firearm as the incident was unfolding. In addition, we also will not take our eyes off our efforts to restore a sense of order and quality of life to our subways. We continue daily to address theft of service with notable increases in both fare evasion summonses and arrests. Our quality of life summonses are also up 96%. This Saturday that just passed, the 21st of May, marked the 3rd month anniversary of our coordinated and collaborative initiatives to address homelessness in the subway as part of the subway safety plan put out by the mayor. A plan that puts focus on dealing with the homeless with dignity and respect. Working closely with our partners at the MTA, the Department of Homeless Services, Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, BRC, the Bowery Residents Committee. We have done exhaustive work in this area every day since the 21st of February. On the trains, at the end-of-line stations, and at train hubs, we have worked tirelessly at this 7 days a week on the evenings and overnights to connect the homeless and subways to service. We have not missed one day in this 3-month period. As part of this initiative, the NYPD has done over 8,000 train inspections, 3,000 on-train runs with over 760 joint response teams, made over 17,000 homeless contacts, and most significantly, taken or referred over 2,000 homeless persons to shelter. As mentioned recently this weekend by DHS, a large number of these persons are still at a place of shelter and have not returned to the streets or subways. That's a good thing. We have now also tasked an executive from the Transit Bureau, Captain Mariela Echeverria, with helping to oversee our nightly efforts at the end-of-the-line stations. It would be fair, though, to acknowledge that many continue to see homeless persons on the subways and stations and can say that more needs to be done in this area. They are not wrong. But we will not stand still on the good work and accomplishments I mentioned above. We will strive to build on them. We are proud to be part of this important and unprecedented team effort to help our homeless New Yorkers, and our efforts will continue. Thank you for all your support, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Chief Wilcox, and thank you again. You've had a busy tenure since you've started too. Thank you for all the hard work that the NYPD has given, and I think the mayor and the governor are working together to get safety under control in our subway system. Randy. Oh, excuse me, Andrew first.
Thanks, Chief, for everything you and your people are doing.
Good morning.
I was really pleased to hear you talking about Parsons Archer, excuse me, and Sutphen Archer.
Yep.
Sutphen Archer is obviously the place where many tourists come off the air train and transfer to our subway system, and there they are met by people offering them reduced cost swipes. They'll hold the slam gates open for them and let them in. So that's the least of the issues going on there. So very happy to hear that you're focusing on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief? Thank you, Chief. Rich, I see no other service changes and no other procurements, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so I think we're done. Do I have a motion to adjourn? David?
Yeah, I'm going to mess up the adjournment.
Okay.
So we have a report on fare evasion and transit adjudication. I was honored to be placed on the chairman's committee to deal with this. One other thing, however, that's missing that was there 4.5 years ago was a breakdown demographically of who's getting tap summonses and who's being arrested. Originally, that used to be part of the report. Now it's not there anymore. I'm interested also in a station-by-station breakdown. I think we're going to need this to really come to grips with this. It's in no means to stop what you've... My daughter's just coming off maternity leave. She rides the subway all the time. I want her protected as well. But the equity issue has come out. Obviously, we see the real surge in this case being in buses across the city, but subways is what we have reported on here. So I will need that kind of information so we can come up with a system that is both fair, equitable, and cuts down on fare evasion. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay. Now do I have a motion to adjourn? Randy, second. David? Okay, motion adjourned, meeting adjourned. Thank you.